Hello and welcome to the Walk Off, everybody. We are in the end of October. World Series starts tonight, baby. I'm Scott Belford, joined as always by the best co-host in the biz, Adam Mack, the Los Angeles Dodgers, and those damn Yankees, a head-to-head 7-game series. And honestly, I know a lot of you disagree. I'm excited for this year's World Series. We've got lots to talk about on today's show, so we are going to get to it. Of course, we are going to get into the World Series. Lead'em League starts in the Dominican Republic. It actually commenced last week. Names to watch for from the Blue Jays: Aroldis Martinez, Luis De Los Santos, Stuart Baroa, and Vladimir Guerrero Jr. all playing in this year's Lead'em League. Blue Jays hire minor league pitching coach Justin Lair, which we're well aware that if there has been a blemish on this front office, which I know many of us feel there's more than one, but if we're just going to really point to one, drafting and player development has been one of them. So bringing in a couple new faces in that facet. I know Shane Farrell, we mentioned this on Mailbag on Tuesday. He has been let go as the assistant scouting director. Not assistant, amateur scouting director. The pitching coach was let go earlier, so now this is his replacement. We will dive into that. Fernando Valenzuela, he passed away. Fernando Mania, anyone who is a big fan in the 80s will remember this, and there is a tie here to Edmonton. So we'll get into that, but the Dodgers are honoring him in this year's World Series with a patch. We'll talk that a little. Ohtani continues to break records, this time not for what you would think Shohei's breaking records for. It is for memorabilia. His 50-50 ball went for $4.4 million. And finally, it is the season of pumpkin carving and candy eating. Halloween right around the corner. So we are going to end the show discussing Halloween candy. The good, the bad, the ugly. Let's dive in. Before we do that, Adam, you started our Patreon portion of the show with a real fun little tease here. Now,
we are going to.
This is what I'm going to say.
I haven't told you what it is yet.
You haven't even told me what it is, but we did do a full episode already talking about Juan Soto, the possibilities of him going to the Blue Jays, that we're both out. We hate the idea of this being the Shohei Ohtani of 2025. Being runner-up, never fun. I would rather just not get into it. And here we are.
Getting right back
both
into
of
it.
us. Even last night, dude, it's so funny. Last night, I was reading about Edward Rogers, and him being back at the helm of Rogers Communications after his family basically telling him, maybe take a little hiatus from the business only a few years ago. Well, he's back. And I started to have these fever dreams of, imagine if he comes in with a big ego, right? Big swinging dick. And he's just like, you know what? Fuck you, Steve Cohen. I'm going to put my $1 billion
it's the Ed Rogers tax.
That's right. Try and beat me. And Juan Soto comes to the Blue Jays. But you started off the Patreon portion with some math. Now, obviously, all of you watching are well aware we're not mathematicians. No one's coming to the walk-off for our savvy math.
So please correct my accounting numbers here in the comments, DMs, whatever. I was thinking we were going to do this at the end of the episode because I didn't want to lose everyone up front, but you couldn't wait. You got to know what it is.
Let's dive in. Let's shake off the casuals.
Shake off the casuals, yeah. Okay, so in honor of Trick or Treat season, the trick is some competitive balance tax manipulation. The result is a treat where we get Juan Soto and Vladdy, and we get Bo Bichette for free. How does this work? Okay, so here's the deal.
This feels like you're going to sell us insurance for a second here.
Oh, trust me. Trust me, I am. Okay, so competitive balance, we don't need to get into like the full breakdown of the numbers of like what the threshold is year by year, whatever, right? We're talking broad strokes here. Um, the Cohen tax is if you go 60 million over whatever the threshold is, right? Um, it's a surcharge on top of the regular competitive balance tax. So you go over the first year, it's a 20% tax on everything you spend. So you go over by 100 million, you pay an extra 20 million in taxes that the league then splits, right? You do that for a second year in a row, 30%. Third consecutive year or more, 50%, right?
Mhm.
But then as soon as you take a year off where you're not over the competitive balance tax, it resets. You're back down to zero. So the next year again, you're at one and so on, right? But with the Cohen tax, 12% if you're 20 to 40 million over, 42.5% if you're 40 to 60 million over, and then 60% if you're 60 million or more over. So forget all those numbers because that's a big clusterfuck. What it accounts to, though, is if you're over by $100 million, right? Right now in 2024, the competitive balance tax was 237 million. So you spend 337 million, you're paying 80% in surcharges. You do that for a second year, you're paying 90%. You do that for a third year, you're spending 110%. So you
Wow.
spend 100 million over the luxury tax or
You're actually
the
spending
competitive balance threshold.
210 over.
You're spending $210 million to increase your payroll by 100 million, which so you're throwing a lot of money away. So here's where the creative accounting comes in. You sign Juan Soto and Vlad and Bo, 15-year deals across the board. I'm sure this isn't legal, but I don't know that it isn't. You you front load the first 2 years,
Of
and then
everyone's.
of everyone's. Yes. So one just to make the numbers easy, and we don't have to argue about he's not going to get this much or he's going to get more than that. These are again ballparks. 50 million a year for Juan, 30 million a year for Vlad, 20 million a year for Bo. Okay. Over 15 years for each of them, that's 750 million for Juan, 450 million for Vlad, 300 million for Bo. Normally, you would be paying, that gets us to 100 million per year, right? So this is just the simplified version of this math. That would be an extra 80 million in taxes year one, 90 million in taxes year two, 110 after that, right? And then 110 every year beyond. But what I'm proposing is instead of paying 50 for Juan Soto every single year, we go 75, 75, 0. Third year, he gets 0 or league minimum or whatever the
Yeah.
number is that you legally have
Interesting.
to pay him, right? But so over that 3 year chunk, and then you just times that by 5, right? You do it the same thing, right? 75, 75, 0, 75, 75, 0. And then you do the same thing with Vladdy, right? 30 million a year times 3 years, 90 million. So you give him 45, 45, 0. Bo Bichette would get 60 in that same
All of
period. So you
this
give
to
him 30, 30,
reset.
0. Resets the competitive balance. Okay. So year one, you're paying 80% tax. Year two, you're paying 90% tax. Year three, instead of 110, you're paying 0, 0 taxes. You get reset. Now, where the benefits really kick in is in year four, where you're only paying 80% taxes again.
Mm-hmm.
Because on the other option, you're still paying 110. You're paying 110 for the next 12 seasons. Whereas
I
under
don't
this,
see I don't see how would be not legal. I mean,
Right.
Shohei
If
Ohtani is
Shohei
being
can get
paid
2
$2
million for
million
the first time.
for, yeah.
Exactly, Scott. So, okay, so I've run these numbers out, these calculations, okay? In scenario A, you're just paying these guys their normal, 50 million a year times 15 years, whatever. Um, so in that first scenario, you're paying like 110 million in taxes on top of the 100 million in salary, right? That works out to over the course of that 15-year period, you're paying 1.65 billion in taxes, just in taxes,
Yeah.
right? But under my proposed scenario, the trick or treat method, you're paying on average 88.3 million a year for 15 years, which works out to 1.32 billion, still a lot, but it's a difference of $325.5 million, which Bo Bichette's contract under this situation, 15 years, 300 million. You got Bo Bichette for free. Everybody gets paid. You get Bo Bichette just in tax savings. Your tax savings by doing 75, 75, 0 pays for Bo's contract.
I mean, this
It's
is what we were
brilliant. Come on.
talking this is what we were talking about with creative accounting. I mean, there are ways to spend big money and do it without um handcuffing yourself to the max, right?
Yeah.
Obviously, what we're talking about here will never happen. I can't see this front office being given the go ahead to spend like this, but damn, what a dream. What a beautiful dream.
No, and not necessarily that the Blue Jays are going to do this either, but
No,
like the Yankees might, right? They might go, hey, if we do this fucking weird thing, we get Pete Alonso for free.
it's kind of weird it hasn't already been done, actually. Like, just the way
Yeah.
you put
Like
this
just to
all together.
construct your whole roster in such a way where like
Yeah.
everybody just knows, like, hey, you're signing a contract in year 3 of our cycle. So year 1, you're only getting the Shohei $2 million or
Yeah.
whatever. But year 2 and 3, you're getting, 25 and 25 because we think you're
They're like, we'll pay
$60
those
million guy.
taxes. All right, guns out.
Yeah, right. But why not? So I'm
Well,
sure there's a fatal flaw in that plan, and I can't wait to see
still,
all the feedback. But
no, I am curious to read the comments after this. Again, forget about the Blue Jays. I love the way you put that too. Like, obviously, I don't think the Jays are the team that will do this, but there are organizations out there who could get creative tax wise. And like you said, Bo Bichette's for free.
mm-hmm. Why not?
All right. World Series starts tonight. It is the Goliath versus the Goliath World Series. And you know what, man? Despite a lot of fans outside of those kind of major markets of LA and New York who disappointed in that outcome, man, are there ever a hell of a lot of storylines that are going to keep this World Series incredibly interesting. I mean, these teams haven't faced each other on this stage since 1981. The power, the star power. Like, I don't
It is an all-star
know.
game that matters, is what it
I
is.
like honestly, Adam. I was trying to rack my brain here, and please, grounds crew, drop your comments below because I'm sure there's an answer to this. But has there been a World Series with this many potential Hall of Famers in it? Like maybe
Mm.
that 98 99 Yankees team, but they didn't face anyone who had equivalent star power. Like, I'm not saying all of these guys are Hall of Famers, but there's a good argument that Shohei Ohtani, Mookie Betts, and Freddie Freeman are Hall of Famers. There's an argument.
Yep.
There's an argument Juan Soto, Aaron Judge, Garrett Cole are Hall of Famers.
Yeah.
Have there been 6 possible Hall of Famers in a World Series before?
Um, According to MLB.com, which has an article from yesterday,
Okay.
spoiler, the World Series that begins Friday night at Dodger Stadium will not break the record for most Hall of Famers on the field, which is
Okay.
13.
Oh, damn. Not even close then.
But I mean, set in 1932.
Oh,
It was between the Yankees and the Cubs. This is like Babe Ruth, Lou Gehrig, Earl Combs, Bill Dickey, Lefty Gomez.
right.
The names go on and on. I mean, so
Yeah, it's almost not fair when you're comparing that Murderers Row Yankees team, which might be the
yeah.
most iconic Hall of Fame laden team in any sport ever.
But I mean, just the fact that you go back to like 1932, I mean, we are definitely in a new era of parody, if nothing
Mm-hmm.
else, right? The
Mm-hmm.
the stars aren't stacked the way they used to be, right? Like part of the reason Montreal Canadiens have so many Stanley Cups is because, like there was not the balance back in the 1920s either, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
so it's a lot for current day.
I think too that it is so internationally represented is huge as well, right? I mean, you really do have the greatest Japanese baseball player, and I mean, there's a pretty solid argument that you could just take Japanese out of that statement.
Hmm.
Uh, One of the best of all time. You have literally one of the greatest Dominican Republic players of all time. You have one of the greatest American players of all time.
Hmm.
It's it is the
It's gonna be a great
narratives that are
series.
coming out of this World Series are fun, whether you like that it is the biggest, baddest teams from the East and the West, which is also another storyline, right? The biggest market
Coast to
from the
coast.
East clashing with the biggest market from the West.
Hmm.
Um, Jack Flaherty going against Garrett Cole. I'm excited, man. And I know that I totally get the folks who are poo pooing this World Series because I do hate the Yankees so much.
Yeah.
And I'm not a Dodgers fan, although my dislike for the Dodgers, and again, this is just because they're a National League team, they're not in my grill, like they're not in
Yeah.
my face all the time. As an AL East fan, well, maybe by fan I mean my hatred for four of the teams in that division are incredibly strong, and my love for
Yeah.
one is unparalleled. But
Hmm. No, no, I know what you're saying. It's yeah, it's I mean, it's better than as much as like would have been a Guardians Mets series would have been cool.
mm-hmm.
I don't know. I don't need Yankees and Dodgers in the World Series every year,
No,
but if
please,
every
I like, dude. Honestly, if so, 1981 to 2024, 43 years. That's a good span. Let it happen every half a century. I'm good with.
even honestly, even if it was every 20 or 25 years, we had a World Series like this,
Mm-hmm.
like it's it's enough. Yeah,
Drop your
it's
comments below, folks. This is what we're going to do next Tuesday. We're going to go over where the Blue Jays fandom lies. Does the eternal dislike of the Yankees surpass the snake bitten on Shohei bitterness in this fan base? Are most of you rooting for the Dodgers? Are the dislike of what happened with Shohei, does it sway things? Are there actual Blue Jays fans cheering for the Yankees? We will tackle this in mailbag. Uh,
Sports Illustrated has the article "The World Series Without an Underdog." I think is an interesting way of
yes,
viewing this. That there really isn't a favorite. It's just like I mean Goliath versus Goliath. You said it right. Like
the
it's
best
kind of
team.
cool in that regard. It's the best teams with the best players
with the best
It's
record. And that's the thing we haven't seen in a long time in a World Series is the top seed in the American League going against the top seed in the National League. And whether you
yeah,
like it or not, it's going to be some good baseball,
the
and I'm
MVP
excited
of
for it.
each league, right? Aaron Judge, Shohei. It's yeah, you couldn't ask for better baseball, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Say what you
Mm-hmm.
will about the franchises and whether you like them or not. The baseball is going to be unreal.
It's going to be amazing, and I am very excited about it.
There's
Okay,
there's no way this ends in five, right?
I I sure don't hope I sure hope it doesn't, man. Like
Like that's
I
almost a
can't.
sweep,
It feels like there's no way this doesn't go 6 or 7. But
barring injuries,
sports, I mean, baseball's a funny little game, dude.
isn't it?
So who knows? But
It's true.
I would be shocked if this
Yeah.
does not go the distance. Anything to add before we move on?
I'm pulling for the Yankees.
Ugh, shut your dirty mouth.
Hate to
God,
say it. Hate to say
I
it.
hate to hear it. I've never disagreed with you more than the last 2 shows, basically.
I hate one entire fan base of people, like on a personal level.
Yes.
I see someone at the West Edmonton Mall in a Yankees hat, I like them less
Hmm.
immediately before I even talk to them. Just a stranger at the food court. When I see someone in a Dodgers hat, I'm like, oh, cool. They must like Shohei Ohtani. And I don't think less of them.
Yes.
But if the Dodgers win and then they win and then they win, they're going to be equally hated. And I don't know how to say that any other way. Like, I don't, there's no circumstances in which the Dodgers win 3 World Series in a row and I don't hate everyone in a Dodgers hat.
I
I don't want to have to do that. I like people. I like liking people.
You're
I don't
like,
want to
I
hate
want to keep my
people.
hate focused.
Yeah, there's nothing I could do. Yankees fans are a lost cause. It's like Dallas
Yeah, they
Cowboys
are.
fans.
Truly,
It's
truly.
like too bad. But
All right. Moving on.
moving on.
The Dominican Republic's Winter League, the Lead'em League, has started up. And I know we brought this up on Tuesday's mailbag. And I actually had numerous people reaching out being like, where can we watch this? So if you are interested in watching Lead'em baseball, the best way to do it is on YouTube. And it is writing in the names of the teams that are playing in Spanish. That's where it's broadcast. It's going to come up. MLB.TV was running a package last year with it on it. I was trying to find it and it's not coming up. So I don't know if they stopped doing that or what has happened. And obviously, feel free to drop your comments if you know more than I do about this. But YouTube is a great way to watch it. There are 6 teams in the league, and I'm going to list them down here, but I also wish to give a very upfront note here before I do so. My Spanish is god awful, and I am going to butcher these names. My sincere apologies. So the Aguias Cibenos,
Okay.
and that team is based out of Santiago, and that is the team that Edwin Encarnacion owns and operates. Now, there are 2 teams based out of Santo Domingo, and that's the Australias, sorry, not the Australias, the Tigre del Licey. So Licey, it's so funny. Licey kind of has the popularity in the DR that the Yankees have
Mm.
in America. Like, there's a lot of people who maybe aren't the biggest baseball fans, but they're out there wearing Licey hats. And then the other team out of there is Escogido. That's the Leones del Escogido. So the Lions versus the Tigers is the other Santo Domingo team. So those are the 2 teams in the capital of the DR. That's the biggest
All right.
stadium. Escogido is Luis de los Santos of the Blue Jays, made his major league debut this year. He plays for them. Then you got the Estrellas Orientals. They are based out of San Pedro de Marcones. I actually got to go to that stadium. It's a small town of about 10,000 people, and they literally fit 6,000 people in there almost every game. It's wild. That is the Tatis's family's team.
Uh,
So
okay.
senior and Fernando Jr. played on there last year. Does he play this year? We'll see. Now, Toros de las Stays, that's out of La Romano, and that's where Vladdy Guerrero is going to play. Then finally, you got Gigantes del Cibao. That's in San Francisco de Marcoris. And I know how badly I butchered that, and probably listening to that was difficult for anyone with any sort of Spanish background. But it's really good baseball. It's exciting that so many of these Blue Jays players are getting to play. I know Vladdy, when the Blue Jays were contending,
Mm,
wouldn't have it.
hmm
But without any idea or sense of the playoffs, for the first time in years since his rookie season, he is playing in his home country. And let me tell you, the DR is excited about it. Do you view this as a bad thing in any way? Like it's interesting how some of these Dominican Republic players, I mean, there's such a sense of pride playing for your home country and going back to your hometown and playing on that team, putting on that lead 'em jersey. Do you think that there's such a thing as playing too much baseball in a season?
Not when you're young.
Yeah, I feel the same way.
Yeah. Like, get Arjun Hamala down there, you know? George Springer, no thanks. Maybe you take some time off. But yeah,
Nate
when you're young,
Pearson, Nate Pearson played a couple of years
yeah.
in Lacey.
Ooh, okay. Pitchers. Okay,
Pitchers with
here's the thing. I kind of go back and forth on pitchers because I think maybe when you're in the build-up, like post-college high A guy, like sure, let's slowly ramp up your workload on what your arm can do. Like if that's what the science or the experts are saying, well, if that's a way to increase your workload safely, as opposed to going from like 60 innings in college to 200 at the major league level, like if we can only get so many in single A and double A and getting some winter ball reps in can help ramp that up before they get to the majors. I'm all for it. Now, once you're a pitcher, like um, if Alek Manoah didn't shit the bed, I wouldn't have wanted him pitching 180 innings in the majors and then also going down and pitching another handful
obviously.
of games down there, right?
Yeah.
Whereas position players, I think would be I'm more in favor of young pitching, or more in favor of young position players going and play winter ball than young pitchers or
Sometimes
pitchers at
finding your
all.
swing is something that happens there too. I know that Starling Marte had a really rough 2023, injury marred,
Yeah,
went to the DR and played Winter League and had one of his best seasons in years with the
yeah.
Mets and was a real driving force as to why they made the playoffs, especially that push they had post All-Star game.
Mm-hmm,
He looked 5 years younger, and I'm
mm-hmm,
not saying that's necessarily because he played in Leadham, but there is something to be said for building your confidence back up. And he
mm-hmm,
was such a stud on that
mm-hmm.
Escogido team
Yeah,
that, you get kind of that swag back.
yeah,
And we all know sports is all fucking confidence for the most part.
big time,
Like it's
big
the
time.
90% mental thing really does play. And so I'm all
Yeah.
for it. I think Vladdy's coming off a hell of a season. I think it's going to be really cool for his home country to get to watch him do what he does.
Mm-hmm,
And he's smart about it. So many of these major league guys, they bail on the team come playoffs. Like they
yeah,
literally they play until the end of December, until Christmas, and then they head to Florida or wherever,
yeah.
Arizona, for their spring
Well,
training.
with Vladdy's bat as hot as it is, why take 4 months off to cool it down? Like he can just stay hot, stay in a rhythm. I mean, I would never claim to be a professional athlete myself, but last year was my first year playing winter ball myself. Like in the soccer domes, we played slow pitch. Like I got an extra 40 games in between November and March, and this past summer was the best I've hit in forever because it's
Yeah.
usually like a slow ramp up of, like you start in April, May, and you're like kind of a little bit of rusty, and then by the end of the year you're like starting to feel good, and then you stop playing ball. And with last year me hitting through the winter, like I hit great all winter, and then I just came out of the gates like great. I just
You put
continued
your
to get
work
better.
gloves on one hand at a time and you were ready to hit dingers.
Exactly. So, but no, but like truly, so like it worked for me at the lowest possible level, but
Yeah.
like yeah, I think there's something to that for hitters at that level of like whatever the rhythm that you're in may be, like keep it up, you know? Keep that confidence up, keep the feel of the bat in your hand and whatever. I think it's great. So yeah, good for him. By the way, Lead'em League this is according to MLB.com 2 hours ago. This was just posted, Scott. The Dominican Winter League games are included as part of
Awesome.
MLB.TV postseason package, which is available for $24.99. So if you get the postseason package for $24.99, Lead'em games will be broadcast exclusively in Spanish. Now, the games will be streamed live, it says, but they will not be archived. So you'll have to watch them while they're happening. But there is, if you go to MLB.com, a game schedule. So if you want to watch, just be aware that you'll have to tune in as it's happening. And otherwise, I
Perfect.
guess, yeah, you can go to YouTube and check it out there too. So yeah,
I
that's an
love it.
option.
Oh, that's good to know.
There you go.
Okay,
Cool.
perfect. Good research, Adam.
Thanks.
Moving on here, a little bit of a bummer in that Fernando Valenzuela, star pitcher in 1981, right? If there
Hmm.
are old Dodger fans, they will tell you all about Fernando Mania. I know my uncle is a huge Fernando Valenzuela fan for a
Hmm.
few reasons. He actually wound up playing with the Edmonton Trappers
Hey, I didn't
back
know
in
that.
1991 for July and August. And as an 11-year-old boy, 9-year-old, wow, my math is not good. As a 9-year-old boy, I actually got to watch him play. And it was
Ah,
funny. It was funny watching in Edmonton everyone lose their mind. Of course, the Edmonton Trappers at the time were the AAA team for the California
uh-huh,
Angels. Valenzuela was sent there to after an injury, and he played for almost 6 weeks of rehabbing, which is
huh,
incredibly cool. I know
hmm,
that the excitement in the stands blew me away as a kid. I didn't get it, like I didn't
hmm,
understand, but I guess like Fernando Mania, like it just took the league by storm in
yeah,
81 as this kid comes out of nowhere, out of Mexico, becomes the best pitcher in baseball, wins Rookie of the Year, wins Cy Young,
Cy Young,
and takes the Dodgers to the World Series, right? Like,
yeah,
that's a hell of a run for a kid out of Mexico that they weren't
yeah,
expecting a ton out of.
hmm,
So a
yeah,
bummer that he
brutal.
passed away, and I think this is really cool. The Los Angeles Dodgers will honor Fernando Valenzuela with a number 34 patch on team uniforms during the World Series here and then all season long in 2025. The circular patch will be on the jersey sleeve with the late pitcher's number 34 in Dodger blue, a white outline surrounded by a black background and blue outline. Fernando is in white capital letters above the number. There'll also be a moment of silence that will be observed in game one of the World Series. So, very, very cool. Um, he was before our time, Adam. Neither of
Hmm.
us really got to. It's funny. Like I don't even remember watching him pitch. I just remember the excitement in the stadium in Edmonton when he was pitching.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, cool. It's kudos to him for having a good long life.
yeah. Moving on. Blue Jays news here. The
What's
Toronto
up?
Blue Jays making a move to improve their pitching development. Toronto has hired former Major League righty Justin Lair to oversee the team's minor league pitching. This is per Sportsnet Shai Davidi reported on Tuesday. Lair, 47, had previously been with the San Francisco Giants working as the team's pitching coordinator on the player development side of things. I mean, if there is a team to poach, a guy from the San Francisco Giants pitching has been excellent. Their development has been good. We watched what they did with Kevin Gausman when he went over there. They basically turned his career around. Logan
Hmm.
Webb is a prime example of someone who has been developed in house. And Adam, we've talked about this ad nauseum, right? The biggest mar on this front office's record is player development. And people are going to hate that I give a little bit of credit here. But you know what? This front office, whether Shane Farrell was pushed out as amateur scouting director or whether there's just greener pastures in Detroit, either way, he is gone and being replaced. Again, Tim Lair being brought in, new voice in an area of need for this organization. This front office, I have shit on numerous times for not being able to accept mistakes, for not being able to pivot.
Hmm.
They do tend to be entrenched in their own ways and think that their way is best. It is refreshing to see change, even if you feel it took too long. I know I feel it took too long, but better late than never, right?
Hmm.
The best time to plant a tree was 10 years ago. Second best time is right now. So plant that frickin' tree. Let's
This is
go.
true.
In such a collaborative organization, how do you feel about new voices being put into play? And do you think that they'll be given the opportunity to let the new voice spread amongst those old entrenched voices? Time will tell.
I'm not a big personnel guy. Like I'm not a, I don't know. It's tough, man, to give credit or not, like for player development and who gets that's it's mostly on the players. I don't know. A lot of it I think is luck. I mean, we talked Fernando Valenzuela.
Mm-hmm.
How much do the Dodgers get for credit for that? For having a rookie out of Mexico win Rookie of the Year, Cy Young, and take him to a World Series? Like, is that
Yeah,
is that good player development, or did they just like fall backwards into a miracle? You know,
it's
I don't
so
know, man. Like,
interesting. It's such a freaking good question, dude. Like I think about Alec Manoah so much, man. Shout out, by the way. I had a show last night at the Clayton Park Bar and Grill here in Halifax, and there were a couple folks, podcast listeners, who came out. And so a tip of
nice.
the hat. The one gentleman, Scott,
Hmm.
great name by the way, wore his Alec
Hmm.
Manoah shirt, his Alec Manoah jersey. And he came up to me afterwards and he was like, I thought I'd come see your comedy wearing a joke of my own, right?
Nice.
But
That's a good one.
he brought up a really interesting point about Alec Manoah. And basically his mindset was, will this is what he asked me. So I'm gonna ask you this.
Right.
Will Alec Manoah ever contribute in a meaningful way to a major league organization again? Impossible to know, but it is a really intriguing question in the fact that he brought so much to the table in that first year and a half. It is so wild how he went so sideways after finishing third in Cy Young voting in 2022, coming onto the scene as a 23-year-old, being thrust into a position that you and I in 2021 were against him being promoted, We were like, let the
Mm-hmm.
kid continue to develop. You're putting him in a situation where he is more likely to fail than succeed, and he shoved it right down our throat, buddy. Like we both ate crow all season long, as he was one of the big reasons why that 21 team just about made the playoffs and had 91 wins.
Yeah, I mean, change of scenery would probably be in his best interest. As much as I hate to even consider that, because we are not
Mm-hmm.
going to be the benefactors of that. But look at Nate Pearson with the Cubs.
Yeah.
In 19 games after we traded him this year, 26.1 innings pitched, ERA plus of 147. His strikeout to walk ratio doubled from 3 with the Blue Jays to nearly 6. His whip went from 1.55 with the Blue Jays this year to 0.987 with the Cubs.
Interestingly enough, too, Adam, when Nate Pearson was asked about this, his actual response was, I'm thrilled for this change of scenery. He's like, I'm
Yep.
not saying anything about the Blue Jays negatively, but I really do think that just a blank a blank page
Mm-hmm.
is why I'm doing so well. And
Yep.
you know what? There's a lot to be said for that. We talked about the mental side of the game, and you know what? Sometimes just having no baggage with you in a new organization can go a long ways, right? Like the expectations, the hype that Toronto fans witnessed with Nate Pearson may not be rivaled again for years, right? Like he was supposed to be a stud. We talked about this numerous times, but MLB.com had him on their show talking about
Mm-hmm.
Hall of Fame.
Yeah. Um, Not quite the same situation, but also like Yusei Kikuchi
Mm-hmm.
went from like a middling starting pitcher, but legitimate, like
Yeah, but a
middle
number
of your
five.
rotation
Yeah.
pitcher, to like borderline elite in his time with Houston at the end of the year. A
Mm-hmm.
2.7 ERA over 60 innings pitched. His whip went from 1.34 to 0.933. Uh, yeah, like it's so when I say change of scenery, I guess for me with Alek Manoah and the question of will he ever meaningfully contribute to another or to any major league team in his career? If he gets out before it's too late, I don't see why not. Like if we traded him this offseason and he went to the Diamondbacks or the Pirates or whoever, I think NL would be a good situation for him.
Yeah,
I
a
think a
league that
lot
hasn't seen
of,
him a lot.
well, and like there is, I mean, seen him as a pitcher, but also seen him as a personality, right? Like we just think of all of the, I mean, in hindsight, they're not funny, but him going on like Serge Ibaka's cooking show, right? Like he's done a lot of like trash talking in a very like public social media, like off the field kind of like he's I think a guy that a lot of teams and a lot of players in the American League are kind of like happy to see struggle.
Yeah,
They're like,
I
yeah, fuck
really
you too,
like
buddy.
that.
Like,
I really like that view, dude, of like maybe the National League would be a really good just go disappear in the NL Central
yeah,
for a few
right,
years, right?
right,
Like go pitch in Cincinnati and
yeah, and go become great. Where not every batter you face is like, fuck this guy. Oh, we
yeah,
got Alek Manoah today. I'm gearing up for him
yeah,
because of all the bulletin board material he's thrown out over the last
yes,
however many years. Like that stuff doesn't go away, right? So
no,
that's why I think a change of scenery for Alek Manoah, not a guarantee that it's going to fix him or whatever, but I
no,
think he is definitely a strong candidate for could definitely find some success once the spotlight and the the heat of the kitchen has gone away, right? So because
Yes,
he kind of did it to himself. So like
he did.
I have sympathy for him as a J, but like as a guy, I'm kind of like, well, you talked a lot of smack and haven't been able to back it up. So that's kind of on you,
Sometimes,
man.
sometimes the hubris of youth can really come
Yeah,
back to bite you, and I really
true.
do think that that's what happened with Manoah a little bit. Is that he got a little
Hey,
big for his britches, if you will, to
at
bring
the
back an
time
old
when
timey
he was
saying.
dealing, I loved it.
Oh, me too.
Love the
Me too.
confidence of it. It's unfortunate he wasn't able to back it up,
I mean, he
and,
was
and have
mic'd up
a
in the All-Star game talking about three punchies. Like
yeah,
it was beautiful. It was so
yeah.
fun. But
So, so yeah, I would say over under 50% chance. I'd take the over that, yeah, he's a meaningful contributor to some MLB team at
at
some
some
point in his
point,
career.
I
I
like
don't
that.
think it's the Jays, but
I would love it if it
yeah,
was. I would love if it was. I would love if he comes back off of injury this year and contributes in a meaningful way at the end of
I
the
would even
season. But
I would even say just to like preface like what is a meaningful way? For me, it's like if he's a number 5 starter with the Cincinnati Reds, but he gives 180 innings and has an ERA around 4, like
oh,
as long as the fans aren't going like pulling their hair out, like,
yeah,
oh, fuck another Alec Manoah. So, like, if he's the number 5 guy on a team, that's a meaningful contributor. And I think that's maybe not Cy Young candidate. So would he still be disappointed? Like, sure. But for me, that's where I'm like, yeah, I could see him definitely going and being like a good number 4 or 5 pretty easily on another team. That's my opinion. I'm Manoah.
all right, we are getting to the end of the show here. One last thing to talk about before we get into Halloween candy, and that is
Hey.
Shohei Ohtani. Of course,
Mhm.
baseball's first 50-50, 50 home runs, 50 stolen bases. The 50th home run ball that basically there was almost a fist fight in the stands for whoever to get.
Yeah.
Well worth those swings, everybody,
Hmm.
because the recipient of that 50-50 ball just sold it for a record-breaking $4.4 million, shattering Aaron Judge's 62nd American
Hmm.
League record-breaking home run ball by a full $1 million.
It's a lot of yen.
So a lot of yen.
Well timed with the sale, the auction. Like this,
Yeah,
the value of this ball can only go
yeah.
down from here, right?
That's what it feels like. I mean,
With them in
I'm
the
not a
World
sports
Series,
collector.
if he hits any walk-off home run, that ball's immediately worth more, right?
Sell it instantly. Yeah,
If
could put it
if
right back on
he
the market.
if he uh if he hits any home run in game 7, that's worth more,
Yeah,
right? Like there's just a lot of opportunities for more important Shohei home run balls
I think even
in the
if
next
he
week.
doesn't hit a home run in the World Series and the Dodgers win, that'll even bump it a bit.
Oh, you're talking the value of the 50-50 ball?
Yeah.
Okay, no, see, I'm taking the other approach that
Oh,
the
the next
value of
ball.
the next home run
Right.
is going to make the 50-50 ball value drop.
Ah,
I think just by
yeah.
comparison, would you rather have the 50-50 home run ball or the Carter walk off in game 7 home run ball of Shohei? Like
Yeah.
if that was to happen, that's all I mean.
Yes.
If there is a historic game 3 or game 2 where it's like a back and forth and Shohei hits a monster ball, it's going to be more important than anybody else's home run that's hit in the same game, right? Just because it's Shohei, I guess.
Yeah.
Like, the guy came through for us. And then I think same thing in game 7. If he hits a game 7 World Series home run ball, even if it's an 8-0 blowout, you're gonna go, holy, this is the home run from the guy in the game.
Yeah.
I think, I don't know. What do I know? What do I know?
No, I agree. He's a exceptional talent and doing crazy stuff, and that makes all of his memorabilia just that much more valuable. All right, grounds crew. Now we're getting to some real serious business here. Halloween, 6 days away. and candy season is upon us.
Yes, sir.
What is your go-to when you are giving out candy, buddy?
Giving out candy. Well, I went almost immediately from being a trick-or-treater to being the chaperone of a trick-or-treater. Had my kid very young in life, so I didn't get many years of like being home and handing out candy. You know what I
Right.
mean?
Yes.
Um, the few years I had of that, I was living at home too, so it was still mom and
Yes.
dad that were doing that, while I was in college. Um, so yeah, it's usually like we'll buy like some kind of a couple boxes of combo candies,
Yes.
Swedish berries, some chocolate bars, and whatever, from Walmart. Throw that on a bowl on our front step and be like, hey, like, please only take one. Nobody's doing that, but
Yeah.
whatever. It's the thought that counts, I guess. So yeah, I don't know what I don't put much effort or thought into what we're handing out.
Yes.
Once my daughter's
I'm
past
very
that
much a
age,
giant
I'm sure
mixed
that'll
box as
change.
well. Yes.
Yeah. Is it like everybody gets the same? Like you're just like one per person or two per person? Or do you give like, oh, this kid's got put a lot of effort into their costume. Maybe they get a little bit bigger handful.
Huge favoritism guy.
Oh, love it. Good.
Huge
Good man.
favoritism guy. Yeah. If I like your costume, you
You're
get more
dressed up as a
candy.
blue jay? Guess what? Here's more
Yes.
candy.
There you go.
Okay.
Two handfuls. Well done.
Dude. Yeah.
um,
Oh, I love it.
I also love candy. I've got a sweet tooth myself.
Hmm.
So,
Hmm.
as if there's, I always have like a
One
huge
for you,
bowl,
one for me. Yeah, I see where this is
and
going.
I'm very generous off the top. And as the night goes on, I start to be like, okay, well, some of these, the best
Maybe,
candies we're putting
maybe
aside
we
for
turn the
myself.
lights off,
Yeah,
blow
that's
the
right.
candle out on that
Yeah.
pumpkin. Yeah. Yeah.
I'm a big Rockets guy. Love the
Rockets are good.
Rockets. Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Um, big fucking Mr. Big fan. Love the Mr. Bigs. I
Okay, Mr.
love
Big's
the
a good one.
nougat, the
Mm-hmm.
nut, the chocolate combo.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Not a caramel guy. I'll eat
Okay.
them. Not a big caramel guy. Too sweet for this guy. Bit of
Fair.
a wuss that way.
Fair enough. I would say I don't necessarily have favorites so much as I have definite least favorites.
No fly zones.
No
Let's
fly
talk the no
zones.
fly zones.
Okay.
Yes.
No peanut allergy, but man, do I ever not like O. Henry's.
Really?
Oh man, every year that is always the last like six things at the bottom of my pillowcase or whatever, is it's just O. Henry bars. It's like I could not care less for an O. Henry. Um, I like some potato chips mixed in. Like if you go to the odd house, you get like a good haul of candy, but then you also got like two or three of those individual bags of chips. Like that's great. I love that. A little mix in a little bit of salty with my snacking. But
Yes.
I've had some trick or treats again myself going out, where I'd come back and I'd have like 18 bags of chips, and I'm like, this is too much. And they're all Lay's regular. I'm not getting any Ruffles all dressed or dill pickle or Doritos. It's just Lay's plain. And I'm like, here you go, Dad.
Yeah.
Like, why do dads love plain chips? I don't know. Anyways, so that's one for me. I don't like popcorn as a candy.
Okay.
I don't know. It's not my thing. Um, yeah. Sometimes you get like weird candies that are a little suspicious. Like
Hmm.
this might be drugs. This might be a handmade edible in this weird wrapper.
Those are the ones I eat first, just for safety.
Just in case. Don't want them to go bad. Don't want to lose them to the cat. Um, yeah, I would also say, as far as like trick or treating with my kid goes, she's now a teenager and is kind of at that age where I think this might be her last year going. last Halloween, she indicated it was her last year going and wanted to have like a scary movie night with her friends instead. But then this year, she's like, no, we want to go trick or treating again. So
Yeah,
they're trick or treating. Um, but yeah, I won't be taking her this year. And I just realized I'm going to be at home handing out candy. So I'm going to have to deal with that. I'm going to have to go suss out some candies and get a system.
I like it.
So, do you
I like
watch
it.
like scary movies? Like, are you like in the living room, like you're in costume, you're watching it, you're watching Final Destination? What's your thing? Or you're just like you're probably doing a show that night.
No, I mean it's this year it's a Tuesday and I know that my
Mm,
wife is very excited that I'm going to be home. I'm sure she has some sort of
nice.
stupid fucking couples costume that I'm going to be roped
Uh-huh.
into doing. Uh
Right.
yeah, I've never been a big horror movie guy. Like I just
Me either.
I'm not that guy. Now, that said, I do like, like Hocus Pocus, let's say. That's
Sure.
fine. A
Okay.
nice, I mean,
Fun
obviously,
Disney
anything with
witch
Bette
movie.
Midler is going to be on television for me, but no.
Yes. Yes.
Yes. So I will say, yes, those type of movies will be going. Um, because my wife wants that. And every
Hmm.
once in a while, I like to do things that will make my wife happy. So
Get her
this will
off your
be one of
case.
those things. Yes.
Gotcha.
A
Gotcha. Gotcha.
yes.
Yeah, huh? There you go. I'm not a big scary movie guy either. My
Hmm.
wife hates them, so we're off the hook there. I don't really know what our plans are going to be. If the sister-in-law is sticking around or what, if we're getting dressed up, we've really put no thought into it as we are a week out now. We've put more thought into our New Year's Eve plans. Can I tell you
Oh,
that?
whoa.
Well, here's a little shameless promotion here. Not for us. Apparently, at the Canadian Brew House, if you go there for New Year's, I don't know all the details on this, but you get wings for free once a week for the next year,
What? What?
right? I'm not, you're
That's,
genuinely blown away by that offer,
I'm
right?
genuinely blown away by that. Sorry.
Yeah. So yeah, okay. So
I'm a
we're
big wing guy.
going. Yeah,
Yeah.
me too. I hate paying for wings. I would
Yeah.
much rather 20-cent terrible wings than full priced good wings. That's just me.
Yes.
So yeah, look into that at a Canadian brew house in your area if they're
There you
doing the
go.
same thing. In Edmonton, apparently, you have to buy tickets to the New Year's event,
And
but
that,
we're going. I guess my sister-in-law just told me about this last night, and I could not be
you're
more
like, you know
excited.
what? Nothing has made me say yes quicker than the idea of free wings for a year.
Free wings for a year, once a week. Now, there are some stipulations, I'm sure, like
Of course.
time and Oilers games not included or
Yes.
whatever, but
Yes.
like whatever, I'll go once a
You'll
week
need
for
to
a
drink a beer with it. That
sure, you really
that's
twist
always my
my
favorite
arm.
stipulation where it's like, "Oh no, I got to buy a beer with this?" Oh no.
Oh man. Yeah, wild stuff. I'll get a beer with a bunch of wings. Yeah. So
All
anyways, yeah,
right.
there you go. That's our New Year's plans.
On that, let's call it. Thank you very much, everyone, for listening. This has been the Walk Off. You can always follow us online on Twitter at Walk Off Podcast, the Walk Off Podcast on Instagram. A tip of the hat and a thank you to all of the Patreon members. We're over 100 of you now, and it's
Mhm.
very much appreciated. We couldn't run the channel without you. Of course, if you are a Patreon member, you automatically get extra bonus content, MLB Mondays, every single Monday. You get instant access to all of our interviews. You
I'm
get
sure be a
the
lot more coming
Patreon
up here
bump.
in the off season.
That's right. Yes, we do. Especially once I get back to Toronto here. So
Hmm.
we are also doing a writing room for our Around the
Hmm.
Horn show that is happening with Mr. Joel LaFlamme. So that is also another Patreon perk. On that, if you want to sign up, it's the walk off on Patreon. Thank you so much, everybody. Appreciate your time. Take care of yourselves. We will see all of the Patreon members for MLB Monday, and we'll see the rest of you for Mailbag on Tuesday.